Welcome to the 6th episode of the ClassCast podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Tibbens, and today we're talking with a former student of mine, Brandon Middleton. And we're going to talk a little bit about school and how school has or hasn't helped, and a little bit about his career in the United States Army. First, how's work going?
First off, thanks for having me. It's good to be home. Work is, right now I'm on vacation. I did 3 years in Alaska. Wonderful, crazy. Won't forget my memories there, but it was a good time there. Met a lot of good people, saw a lot of good views, but definitely glad to be back on the East Coast for sure.
Okay. When you're done on vacation, where are you going after this?
So when I leave here, I'm going to Georgia for 3 weeks, going to airborne school, hopefully pass that, which I should. And then once I'm done with school, I'll report to Fort Bragg, North Carolina right after that, and then I'll have 3 years there.
So you're doing airborne school. This is actually, we haven't talked about this before. Is Fort Bragg, is that still home to like 82nd Airborne? Yep. Is that like a transfer for you, or is that something you're like, are you going to be in the Airborne
I'll be in the 82nd, yeah. I'll be in the 2nd Brigade, 82nd, and whoever they put me up for, that's where they put me. But it's 3 divisions worth, which I can't really break down because I don't know that big, but it's like, it's pretty much Fort Bragg is its own city, pretty much. It's very big.
So yeah, that's, I asked because my dad was actually in the 82nd Airborne in, I want to say, the late 60s. But I don't think he was ever stationed at Fort Bragg. But my wife's family lives there because both of her grandparents were in the military. I don't know about the other guy, he was Army Special Forces. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they're based there. There's a lot of Special Forces there.
Yep.
And yeah, it's like a city within a city. It's kind of a weird place. Have you been on Fort Bragg before?
Never been to Fort Bragg. I've been to North Carolina a lot because I got family down there as well with cousins and a few uncles. But I've been to Raleigh and a few cities like right outside Raleigh, but never been to Fayetteville. But from what I hear, it's not the greatest city, but Fairbanks, Alaska wasn't the greatest city either. So
all right. So for before we do the rest of it, like Alaska, because and this is great. You're a great guy, and I love you. Come back to visit, and you come back, maybe once a year, twice a year, something like that, and that's great. I think it was maybe last year we were talking, and you were talking about how being in Alaska was so cool in certain ways, but it was so weird in other ways because there wasn't necessarily a lot to do, adjusting the climate, the daylight. Like, I mean, obviously it sounds like you're happy to be out of there.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
What's the best part of being stationed in Alaska? Like, what are the good parts, I guess?
Well, so or at least most of the people in the military, they joined between the ages of like 18 and 21, and most of them, they just didn't want to go to school, they just couldn't find a job. So me at a young age, I had to somehow find the pros of being in Alaska because of, like we just talked about, the dark, which would definitely mess with you mentally. So I was just like, I'm 19 years old, I'm in the great north of the world, and I see northern lights like day one as soon as I get there, and they're dancing like you see in like cartoon shows, just like moving around and stuff. Right. I have a video, and it's just like, you gotta take a second and just enjoy life. Like, just forget work for a second, just take a pause.
That's cool.
And just enjoy it.
So, nice place to visit, maybe not a nice place to stay kind of deal?
It's 50-50. Like, it really depends on the kind of person. So, if you're a hunter, fisher, or just like a wilderness person, by all means, go to Alaska. You will have the greatest time of your life.
Right.
For example, if you're from Ashburn, Virginia, kind of, and it's more city-like it's getting more really like DC almost, with all the buildings we're getting stuff, then like, you may not be the biggest fan of it because there's not all this attraction there. There's not like stuff you can always do, like go downtown. Because if you go downtown, there's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of bad things that go on downtown, shootings. Like, it's right. Very bad. Like, I wouldn't want to have like my kid there, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I guess with that, I mean, sort of referencing like where you've been versus where you grew up, and now moving to Fayetteville and all that. I guess, I mean, I'll clarify, but what I want to ask is sort of like, why the military? You just said how most people join between 18 and 21, mm-hmm. and it's certainly not everybody, but you stereotype that many people join either I don't want to go to school, can't afford school, or I haven't figured out what to do for a job.
Yep.
But some people also sign up, that's what they want to do, or this is a career move, or whatever else. For you personally, like, was it one of those? Was it a combination? Like, what led to you enlisting out of high school?
So starting even back in high school when we all had, there's still counselors in high school, when everyone had a designated counselor, it kind of started, honestly, way back to him. And I won't say any names, but we were talking one day, he's like, how are your grades? And I was probably a 2.5, maybe a 3.0. I was just an average student. And I just wanted to get through high school, and I was a basketball player for pretty much most of my life. I was like, I want to go to college to play basketball. And then he was probably one of the first people to tell me, like, that's not happening. And as a kid in high school, just a kid still, like, that kind of killed me mentally. But I kind of brushed it off down the road. Finally graduated out of high school, went to Nova for 1 semester, but then I tore my shoulder, my bicep. And so that killed me mentally. And then just, like, I feel like I was wasting my parents' money too. And it's not that I did bad at Nova. I was like, I just don't see myself doing this right now. And I told my dad at the end of the semester, I was like, I just want to take a break from college. And then one day later, I was like, I think I want to do the Army. Like, it kind of clicked. Okay. So.
Was he ever in the armed forces?
His dad was in the Navy for like 30 years as they weren't buds back then, but he was, I guess, whatever SEAL teams were back in the day.
Right.
And he did 30 years of that. I think I get my craziness from him, honestly. And then my dad tried to join at 22, but they said he was too old. Back in the day, I guess 22 was too old for him. And,
too old to enlist or to do special forces?
To enlist, I guess, yeah. And so he did law enforcement, and he's been in law enforcement for 22 years, did SWAT for 5 years.
Okay, because, I mean, I know, because I taught you did I teach you in 10th and 11th grade?
I think both.
I think it was like 2 years in the middle of high school, right? And so I know when some of these topics came up, like, you always showed a general interest in some of the Army stuff, but I didn't know if that was going to enlist or the rest.
Yeah. And
so it ends up being something that it ends up looking like your best option at that time. Looking back, do you think that was a good option? Like, has this been, like, for you personally, has this been a good thing for you?
Absolutely. So, like I said, I was 18, 19 when I joined, and you gotta be, I mean, everyone thinks to become an adult at 18 years old, like, yeah, like, that's the age, but, like, joining the military, like, you really have to become, like, yourself. Like, you're on your own unless you're married at that point, but, like, you need to, like, learn to grow up, accept what is there, go with what is in front of you, and then go based off that. So, like I said, I went to Alaska by myself, and you learn just financially, disciplining yourself, having to wake up every morning at 5:30 and having to go to do a workout that you don't want to do every morning. And it's not even a workout. It's just like maybe push-ups, sit-ups, and then there's your morning right there. And you go to work from 9:30 to 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon. Right. So, like, it's more of the discipline aspect, but I've no regrets joining. But I'm glad it put me where I am now for sure, because I have a more, I don't know what the word is, but I have a better look on life. I should say, for sure.
So, like, a little perspective.
Absolutely.
Priorities, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we want to talk about, but I'm just curious because you mentioned, counselor sort of, laying it down, you're not playing college basketball.
Yeah.
Was that good advice? Like, or was it good advice in a bad way? Was it bad advice told well? Like, that's obviously a moment that changes how you're looking at your post-high school plans, right? Did it change for the best? Like, should he have said that? Should he not have said that? Like, because that's one of those times where sometimes, like, we have little interactions with people that end up having big effects later. And you never know it when it's happening. Like, he probably didn't think he was going to have any major impact when he says it, but maybe it has in certain ways. Like, was that the right thing for him to do?
I mean, looking back on it, I still don't know why he really came out and said that. But at the end of the day, I know, like, me personally, if you're going to tell me something, like, be straight up with me, be real, like, don't sugarcoat it. So hopefully there was some meaning behind it. I don't know. But when I went to Nova, like, I was still trying to play basketball until I tore my shoulder and my bicep slightly. I joined the military for some reason after that. But there was a reason behind it. He said it. What happened, and
I mean, and I'm not asking you to play the woulda, coulda, shoulda, but do you think, say, without that injury, like, I don't know, like, I mean, I obviously knew you were into basketball. I think I caught 5 minutes of one game one time, so I don't know if you're good. I have no idea. Like, do you think that that's a thing that you would have been competitive to do?
Absolutely.
So if you had kept playing basketball, does that mean maybe you wouldn't have ended up in the armed forces?
Most likely, yes, because at the time, so in sports, like, people say you hit your peak or you figure out you're good at the sport. So me personally, I didn't figure out I was good at the game till I would say kind of late in the high school, going into my senior years, kind of when I figured out, like, I can play the game. And it's never too late, me personally. It's never too late for anyone, but, like, it's kind of late in your career. But my AU coach, who I've been with since I was, like, 5 years old, so he's been a big impact on my life as well, just like my parents. he was working on trying to get me to play, I think, at Hood College in Maryland, just like some D3 schools. I was completely fine with that. But, of course, I went to Nova that first semester, but then the counselor thing happened, and it kind of just like...
Yeah, well, and that's, sometimes that's, like, good advice to give is, like, for example, I don't want to pick any one person, so I'm going to say, and this has happened a few times, but in the last 2 or 3 years, I can think of at least three students who've gone to school, gone to college for art or for theater or acting. Mm-hmm. And teaching in an English class, I don't always get to see. I don't know. I know they're into it. I don't know if they're any good at it. And now, like, these kids are in college to do theater, to act, or to do art. And now, because outside of school, they're graduating, I'm friends on Facebook or Instagram, and I see the art or I see the acting, like, I'm not an expert, but they're not very good. and in those cases, I think, like, man, like, somebody should have said something, because you're spending, maybe they'll get better, I don't know. Yeah. You spend a lot of money on it. And so sometimes it's, like, from that teacher or counselor's perspective, you're doing a favor by saying it, but sometimes you're not, and I always worry, like, I want to try to not discourage someone, because what if I'm wrong, or, it's not my job to ruin someone else's day or dream or whatever, but I mean, that's sort of a pivotal moment. And I mean, for you were, when I first taught you in 10th grade, like, you're skinny, you weren't a big guy, but like towards the end of high school, you started to fill out. So that's what you say, like, all right, I can play the game, but you were very different. You were a different guy at the end of high school than, say, 10th grade.
For sure.
And probably a lot of guys getting recruited D1 are already full-grown men at 10th grade.
6'3", 6'5",
It's a different body type. I don't know, that's tricky. That's like the person's probably trying to give you the best advice they can, but trying to give good advice doesn't mean it is good advice.
Yeah.
Do you still play just recreationally? Do you play?
I play recreational, like, around. I played a lot. I'd say I played a good amount in Alaska until I saw a dude break his shin and the bone came out. The core is horrible, and I was already risking it. But once I saw that, I was like, I'm never playing here again. But when I come home, when I talk about my AU coach, I'm always visiting him. Like, I'm going by. I'll help out the kids he's teaching, or I'll even play with them. And like I'm doing now, like, I try to give back to at least the people that I'm closest with, because like I have a better perspective on life. And when I was at that age, like, I didn't know nothing really much. I'll be honest, I didn't know a lot. And so, like, if I can, like, instill or give some sort of knowledge to the kids now that I didn't know, hopefully it'll set them up higher than I was.
Right, make good decisions. Yeah, and that's cool. I know you said that, like, I had, like, the flashback to watching the Louisville. Was it Louisville?
Yeah, it was Louisville. Kevin Word.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, you said that, and I was just like, oh, like, I can't even think about that without cringing. Like, see that in person.
I mean, it was a clean break, but
it's not good. It's not good.
Not at all.
Yeah. So, you're enlisted.
Mm-hmm.
Your rank is?
I'm a sergeant.
Sergeant.
That's my work name.
Okay, sergeant.
Work name.
Should I call you sergeant?
Oh, no, don't start that. I still got like a month off of work.
Yeah. So my assumption is you're doing pretty well, right? I mean, you're advancing.
I'm saying I could do better.
Okay. And so, really, it's one of, the 2 or 3 core questions I have, which is, how was your school experience? Thinking high school or middle school, stuff like that. Like, what of that has been useful or helpful? Or maybe what wasn't? What are things that you put a lot of time and effort into you just don't use, or that actually hurt your efforts and rest? Because as you're advancing, I know we talked about you're looking at other possible options, promotions, things like that. And some of this requires some tests, or it requires you to do certain other things. School gives you some study skills. Yeah. But are they useful, or did it give you anything else that you're using?
So, I believe it was you, actually. It was you or Miss Norman. One of the English teachers that I had to retake my ASVAB back in December. I may have told you this, actually. I had to retake my ASVAB. Yeah, it was you, I believe. You sent me some...
I sent you, like, some I think it was punctuation, grammar stuff?
It was vocabulary.
Vocab, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, besides the school and, like, the homework or, like, just, like, the work in general, I mean, I think the one thing I take away from it is the teachers and the bond you build with them. So, like, for that example, like, I could reach out to you or, like, Ms. Norman, for example, like, hey, like, I have this coming up, like, do you have anything you could send me? And you sent me, like, 20 pages worth of, like, I don't even remember what they're called, but, like
word roots or...
it was word roots, actually. Yeah, it was word roots. I used that to study over it. I took it, and I scored like 20, 30 points higher than I already had, which set me up to get to where I'm trying to do later on down the road, which was fantastic. But when it comes to also work too, so besides of the ASVAB, when they say like, hey, you need to study this, like something's coming up, or we'll talk about a mission. So like I'm at training and there's a mission coming up and I have to lead a team out. I have to like at least not study, a little bit of studying, but then also plan in my head like what I'm going to do, what I'll do once this happens and this happens. And that's kind of like, I guess when it comes to school, like you got homework or a test, you need to like, I wasn't the best at tests, but like looking back on the way you should study or I should have studied is how I wish I did now what I could have done back then. Put more effort into it.
Some like planning, some time management, some organizational skills and things like that.
Absolutely.
So is that something that anybody actually taught? I mean, it's something you learn in school, but does anybody actually teach that?
When I was in school for time management and stuff, I mean, like, you get this, well, it used to be for me 6 minutes in between each class. Now I think it's like 10.
I think it's still 6.
Is it 6?
They've worked in a few extra breaks and stuff.
So, I mean, we'll start off with something small as that. So, you have 6 minutes in between class, and you want to see your friends, for example. You spend maybe like 3 or 4 minutes talking to them, then spend the next 2 getting to class or something like that. So, like, just something as little as that can, like, I mean, I was kind of already aware of time management because of my dad and my parents instilled it in me before I even, like, got into school. So, like, I kind of had already some small stuff that I knew of.
I have a couple of coworkers who are big on what they call soft skills, which are like, you know, meeting deadlines, managing your time. When you need help or whatever, like to write an email and to be decent and, not formal, but at least, you know, capitalize some stuff and do it, you know. And so in some cases, I think that if that's all you're trying to do in your class is soft skills, you're probably not teaching any of the other stuff you're supposed to. But if you don't hold anyone accountable for, say, being there on time or take advantage of extra help when it's there, or, you know, whatever that is, organize yourself, know where your materials are. Like, that's probably part of it as well. Do you think that's the most useful thing that comes out of school? Like, for your experience or in your job, like, is there a class where you look at it and you say, the stuff I learned there I use, or I will use, or is it more just, I learned how to learn, or I learned how to manage, you know, manage time?
Honestly, math and English are like the 2 biggest things that I've used. Not a lot, but like when it comes time to, like those are the 2 biggest things that come back to me when it comes time to something that comes into work. So math example, when you're shooting, and this, I don't use any of the scopes, but if you're a sniper, there's a lot of math involved, and I don't know how it breaks down, but like I just know that there's a lot of math involved. It's not hard, but it's just basic. Like I think it's like almost basic, like algebra 2, I believe. But like
you got to do like the windage and the whole thing.
But like stuff like that, like I still remember if I see it in front of me. I mean, it'll take me a few minutes to pick up on it, but I'm like, I remember this. And then like for English, for example, I started reading a lot more, surprisingly. But I wanted to, though, because I wanted to just learn more about just whatever catches my eye.
Right.
And so I forget what book it is. My uncle has put me onto it. I think it's like The Art of War, I believe. It's like 65 pages. I think it's like
Sun Tzu.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's a classic book. Chinese text on, like, you know, military theory.
And he's like, go ahead and pick this up and read it. I haven't started it yet because I just got it. But like just small stuff like that, just like to increase your vocabulary, first of all. And then just, you guys have been saying that since I don't even know when I started school, but every English teacher I've had is just read. Just read something small, and that'll increase it like crazy. Yeah,
so I mean, we're what? You know, week and a half, 2 weeks into the beginning of a new school year, and I've already probably said at least a dozen times in each class, just read more. You know, like, if you can read well, I mean, you don't have to be a great reader. You can read and understand what you're reading.
Yep.
And you can do at least arithmetic, you can do basic math, maybe just the first part of Algebra 1, whatever. There really isn't a lot you can't teach yourself. You get a library card, you got the internet, you know, and you can go to the library and use the internet there. Like, in a lot of ways, teachers are optional if you read well and can do arithmetic and some basic algebra. So when you say, like, those are the things that come back, like, over and over, I'm telling kids in school, I'm like, I can teach you all kinds of stuff. Nothing's going to be more useful than you being able to read well on your own, because then you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to listen to anybody. You can go do your thing. You know, you're going to read, you know, if you read it, I've read it twice, The Art of War, and like, it's good. I don't think I've loved it the way other people do, but people in business love it because of the strategic thinking.
Yeah, that's what I like.
People in military, obviously, but a lot of it's so old that, like, some of the military stuff's going to seem either obvious and simple or outdated and useless.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that comes back to sort of strategic thinking. And when the guy writes the book, I don't know how old it is, 1,000 years ago. It's an old book.
Yeah.
Some of that was probably revolutionary, or at least he's the first guy to write it down. But if you can read it, you don't need anyone else to tell you it, you know? Do you wish in school that you read more?
Yes. Because my dad always told me this. He's like, because we'll go back to the ASVAB thing, because the ASVAB is broken down into pretty much every subject you've taken your whole life. Middle school, high school, elementary school. Or
so do they do content? I don't know a lot about the test. Like, I know there's a reading and math. What else is in it?
There's reading, there's math. I think there's 2 readings, actually. I think there's like 2 maths, 2 readings. It's vocabulary, but that's not what it's... Actually, I think it's like word vocab. I believe there's science as well. Like a little bit of science, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But I believe there's that. And there's like 6 or 7 subjects, and then they come together, and then there's like, I believe, 10 different groupings. So for me, I needed a GT score of a 105 or a 110. Anything above that, like, you can get into any job you want, in the Army at least. I don't know how it is in the other branches.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to retake it, because mine was an 87, I'll be honest. I took the ASVAB test, like, right after I got out of college that first semester, and I still hated tests.
Right.
And I sat behind the computer, and I'm just like, I don't want to do this. So, like, a 4-hour test took me, I think, like 2 hours maybe, which is not the right answer.
Right.
But
it's like doing the Christmas tree thing.
It showed as, like, I did not like tests. I scored an 87 on it. Like, I did horrible. But then after being in for, that was 2.5 years, almost 3 years when I took it again, I was more disciplined. I knew what I needed to do to get a good grade, pretty much, or a good score to be successful in my job. So, like...
Well, and I guess you also had a reason to do well. And that's different. But, there's a motivation the second time, because now you sort of have your eye on
a prize.
There's a job you want. There's something to do. The first time I'm doing it just to have to do it. And I think for a lot of, say, students in high school, a lot of times, especially if I say less motivated. I don't even mean less motivated as a human being. Just you're not motivated, say, in a particular class. I don't care about this class. I don't care about, this just doesn't seem interesting. But we still stick you in the class and make you take it. Yeah, it's kind of who cares, it's what C's get degrees, you can move through with that. So how much, I don't know, maybe this you can't, I don't know if you can even answer it, but in the difference between the first time you took it and the second time you took it, a couple years apart, how much of the improved score do you think is a matter of like preparation and studying and practicing the rest versus how much was really just you felt motivated and took it more seriously?
It was honestly a mixture of both. So I told my leadership, and if you have good leadership, which there are great guys in the military period that will take care of you if you want to better yourself, and then there are some that really just don't care. This is the truth.
Yeah.
But the guys...
It's probably like any job.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to have good leadership that cared, and they gave me resources, books, and a couple websites to use to prepare. So I had the motivation and the resource behind me. So, like, it was just, from then on, it was just pedal to metal, and I was just like, let's knock this out. And once it came around and she told my score, I was just in disbelief because I told her, I'm not good at taking tests. And she's like, well, you just crushed it.
Yeah. I
was like, that's awesome.
So what was the motivation? So like in this, you obviously you're thinking about other jobs. What's the goal in going to, airborne training? They still call it jump schools at the same thing? I have former students.
Some people call it jump school. Some people call it airborne school.
So I didn't know it was the same thing.
Yeah.
Say with the goal of going there, going to Fort Bragg, what is the ideal scenario for you? Like, why was the test important? What do you want to do?
So, in the military schools, you got to have a certain GT. That's what it's based off of. And mine was low. And so we'll talk about like Special Forces or Ranger Battalion, you need a 105 GT score to even try out to go to what's called RASP, which is 8 weeks. And that's you getting looked at, you're getting grinded just to see if you even qualify, and they'll select you to go to a Ranger Battalion. And then you need a GT score of 110 to go to what's called selection, and that's for Special Forces. But after selection, you're not even done yet. You still have 2.5 years, or a year and a half to 2 years of training, and you still have to pass that for them to even say, like, here, like you got it. So, like, those are probably the 2 biggest motivations right there, because a lot of us in the infantry, well, not a lot of us, but dudes that are very motivated and they want to get to the next level in their job, so like infantry, they will want to try and go raise their scores or even be a sniper. You have to go to sniper school with a 105 score as well.
Right.
So like they want to try and just like be different, I guess, and that's probably the best way to describe it is get out your comfort zone, push yourself, and see what you're really capable of.
Learn something new, specialize in something.
Yeah.
So for you, the goal is special forces.
It's a work in progress. We'll see.
Well, I mean,
so on that topic, I called the guy today, and I was like, hey, like, I'm trying to see if I can even go right now. That's what I'm working on. If I can even go right now, because I submitted a packet back in June.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't heard anything. We're going on the first few days in September. Haven't got an email, so I was just trying to say, like, hey, like,
right, check in.
Hey, sir, like, what's going on here? And he said he'd call me back today. I don't think I'm getting a call back anymore, but
if you get one, we can pause. That's fine.
yeah, I mean, calls in the middle of this, that'd be great. But yeah, the goal is to go to one of those two and get out of what I call normal army, as we were talking about earlier. Because there's rules, and then you can kind of make your own rules, so to speak, is the easiest way to describe it. And I think anyone's up for trying to go outside the book a little bit. And
how much of that is like personal satisfaction with the work you're doing versus, say, the cloud or respect that comes with it? Like some people advance, think about, like, I'll use the school metaphor since that's what we're talking about. Like, you're a teacher, you teach your class, you do whatever. Say you want to advance in some way, there's no way for me to advance in my job. The only way for me to advance is to stop doing my job. Mm-hmm. I can become department chair and I just teach it. I go to more meetings, teach your classes. Or you become a principal. So in terms of being a principal, some people want to have that sort of control in a building and influence and try to improve it. Some people just want to be respected as the principal, and so you do it more for the role than for your effect on it. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's a balance and you make a little more money, but I always feel like the best principals are the ones who are doing it not because of the name or because of the paycheck. They're doing it because they think they have that they think they can influence a thing positively, right? And it gives them the freedom to do it. Mm-hmm. So like for you, when you say to be able to operate, say, on the fringes of the rules and sort of some of this, is that sort of your ability to just make your own decisions?
Well, there's that too, but then like also, so it's not also just about, like I keep saying, like the making your own rules. So they're the tier lead of the military, them and the SEALs and the other guys. So like in the Green Berets, they will do more than just go behind enemy lines and handle business. They'll go to different small little countries and they'll teach them their special forces on how to be even better. So when the time comes for them, they can handle their business and stuff. So these guys travel all around the world to make other people better as well. So like how I'm helping it now, like I want to get back to the people here where I'm from, is like, that's kind of like what they do as well, but it's just not their own people. It's the whole world they're giving back to.
See, that's cool.
And like I'm all for helping people as well. And then also just working together as a team and having like that bond, that like brotherhood as well. Because some people, when I first joined and I came in the first time, like a couple people were like, so like, how are you and the people you work with? And I was like, I'm always keeping honest. I was like, it's not what y'all think it is in movies. Like, I mean, like, yeah, you got your group here, and here, but it's not like you guys come together. Like, I've seen a lot of people where it's just like, it's like high school again. You got a group here, and here.
Right.
And then that's it. So like, I mean, maybe it's different where I'm going next, but at least where I was at last, it was like,
it's the same continued sort of fracture.
It's almost like I was in high school again. It's like you had your groups. Don't get me wrong, like I hung out with the group as well, but I tried to like at least talk to people here and there, be open with everyone.
And so in a special forces or in some other capacities, because it's a more select group, and because you're I'm assuming working with a smaller group of people,
12 people.
Yeah, right. So you probably have better sort of team cohesion. Like there's more of a bond there.
I mean, I can't speak on any experience, but from what I've talked to, and I know people that have gone that route and stuff, that's all they talk about is just like the bond they have. Like their wives and their kids are doing this one weekend while all the guys are going out and they're like camping or something, just something small like that. Right, what I hear. Right. And that stuff is like what I like to hear, because like I said, like cohesion and bond is like a real big, at least it should be a big aspect you think in the military, but it's kind of,
like you said, probably depends on the setting, depends on sitting somewhere in Alaska might feel different than sitting somewhere in Iraq or sitting in. Okay, so I mean that's a big part of it. Have you given? I think you mentioned this, but I'm not sure if I remember exactly what you said. have you given consideration at this point to going back to school, like taking college classes?
Absolutely, yeah. So this again falls back on the military when I joined. So, and my uncle as well. He told me always have a plan for a plan and for a plan and so on and so forth. So, like when that counselor told me you can't play basketball, I had nothing other than that. I was just like basketball. Right. Now by joining and like seeing how my life can be bigger and better and I can be more successful, is go to school and get a degree and set myself up for success if I get out.
Right.
And then if I don't get out, I'll have that degree just in my back pocket whenever I choose to get out. And so when I get to North Carolina, I want to start doing classes on something like a psychology or something.
So will you have the time, and I don't know if you know this, since there's some stuff up in the air, but do you think you'll have the time to take some classes while you're still in the service? Like, are you going to go to school while still in the service?
So it's all online classes. You can go to a university, but me personally, I'm probably just going to stick with the online portion because, for example, like I said, we start work at like 9:30, 10. We don't get off till around maybe like 3 or 5.
Right.
So like by the end of the day, like I'm already exhausted. So I mean, that's just me personally. So like, I'd rather just do some online classes and just keep it simple with that and see how it goes.
Right.
But
is it a military program or is there a name for the school?
I want to say it's like Texas College something. It's something in Texas, I believe.
Okay.
But there's like a lot of online colleges that are very military friendly, and we just have to go to a building and then they help us set that up, and then that's pretty much how it goes.
So yeah, I had a former coworker, and she taught in all over the country in high school, but she had actually taught some college classes as well. I think I would say maybe University of Michigan and like a couple of good schools. And then while she was working, this is at a different school. This isn't where you went, but she was still teaching an online class that was all enlisted military. But I didn't know the name of the school or any of that. And she said basically it's you basically run people through some reading, you post some notes, there's a little discussion, and then she grades the essays. She's like, most of my time is really spent on grading essays or giving feedback. But, and she said, she goes, like with any school, and especially with any online program, some people are just sort of puttering through and they're working towards it. And she said, some people, you can tell, were taking it very seriously. And so her assumption was always that those were the people who intended to use the degree outside of the military versus people who were taking classes either just to kill time or for sort of short-term advancement. But she had like an interesting perspective because she'd worked in public school, she'd worked in college, and then she was doing it online with the military. I guess, personal improvement is personal improvement, but there's a few different ways to handle it. So you say, you're thinking about psychology, and is that because of post-military plans?
I forget who I was talking to, but also personally, like a majority, I don't want to say majority, I don't know any numbers, but at least me personally, I would think if someone wanted to do federal business, they're going to do criminal justice. And one thing I've learned is someone told me this, is bring something new to the table for a team. So like no matter what you do in life, like you always have a team. So like for teachers, for example, like everyone in school, you guys are just one big team. Right. So like for federal business, like I want to do SWAT. I mean, yeah, criminal justice is cool and all, like the basics. I don't know what goes into criminal justice, but with psychology, you can kind of read body language, I think, a little. I don't know too much about psychology, but I think it's like reading. Yeah, I mean, it's knowing how people are going to think, how people are going to act, how you show what you're thinking. And so, like, if you're on a SWAT team, like, and you have someone in custody, but they're not telling the truth, or like, if you're not getting anything out of them, like, bringing that to the table, I believe, like, to a team is like a perk as well as having that degree in it. Right. So that's kind of how I look at it as well.
And so, especially if most of the other people you're working with have done a criminal justice degree. Yeah. So is the plan, FBI is the plan? FBI or is at least, I would say the plan, but is an option or is like
it's an option I'd like to do, but like right now I'm very motivated for just honestly anything with work right now because I've been out of work for so long, but whether if I stay in or get out, if I get out, I want to do police like my dad because that's just in me at this point. Right. And to get into federal takes a long time, so at least police will keep me busy and disciplined to just having the mindset of like, all right, you gotta work from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. like something like that.
All right, so I don't even know. I have a question. I don't even know how to ask this, but like, I'm just thinking about like, you in school, like you when you were younger, like you're a good kid. you're not a bad student. You weren't a great student. Like you say, you're kind of average student. You know,
Yeah.
you were respectful, but it doesn't mean you never like broke a rule. Probably never broke any big ones, at least like I knew about anyway. You know, so but that's where I say like the idea of say doing law enforcement or say being in the military now or doing special forces. How much of that is say like personal interest? How much of that do you think is maybe something that rubbed off in terms of like values from your dad, from your family? Like when you were 15,
Okay.
I would have never been like, that's the guy who's enforcing all the rules.
No,
you know, and I'm not saying you couldn't do that or whatever, but at that point, that would have never been my guess.
No, it would have been mine.
And so, in terms of what you've done between then and now, is it about your experience? Is it about the influence of your family? Is it, I don't know, it could be anything.
It's 50-50 because, like I said before, like Grandpa did the Navy. My cousin, he was actually 82nd as well for I think 3 or 4 years. My uncle, he was in the Army as well, and then my dad did law enforcement with SWAT. I mean, it's not Army, but it's kind of the same.
So your
concept.
dad did SWAT.
He did SWAT,
Okay.
yes. So like, it's military law enforcement it's even a bigger family than what it really is. So like that kind of just came off on me. I mean, 18, 19 years old, I can't do police. Why not do military? So
Right.
I just wanted to get off my feet and just do something for myself because I didn't want my parents honestly paying for anything anymore. I mean, they're more stubborn than I am when it comes to that stuff because I was like, I can handle it myself, but especially my mom, just because like she's always gonna be taking care of her kids and
That's
stuff.
right. She's your mom.
It is what it is.
And, you know, I mean, and you know what? There's, especially you're 22, right? So, you know, don't take it when you don't need it. But if you need it or you could use it and someone offers, you also shouldn't be too proud to say no. Like,
No, yeah.
You know, or too proud to say yes again. You know, you take it when you need it, but maybe don't take it when you don't. And so it's nice to have some support like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the appeal with SWAT? Like, is that a similar appeal to the military? Like,
So, like,
I mean, like, is this like the working in a unit? Is this just we like weapons? Like, I mean, I love to shoot, so I'm cool with that answer too. Like,
I love it too. So in the military, at least the guys that I worked with in Alaska, we loved what was called Ep.006, and that's anything clearing a room. And so it's close quarter combat. I mean, every SWAT call is not going to always be that way, but I think from what my dad told me growing up, a majority of his calls were that, or if it was a hostile situation. But like, just I don't want to put what I've done so far for 6 years if I get out after this to waste. So like, I know a lot about clearing rooms and stuff. I mean, I'm not the greatest. I can always improve. But from what I learned, I just don't want to throw out the window and just be like, all right, like you did 6 years, like that's it. I want to like use what I know to the best of my ability.
And especially since, you know, at least in the broad view thing, like, you know, especially since you're young, I think back to my teaching classes in college, and there were I think there were actually 3 or 4 people, but there were 2 guys that I had multiple classes with who had done the full, you know, military career. They did 20, 23 years, something like that. But these guys are like in their, you know, early 40s.
Yeah, around 38 to 41.
Yeah, they're somewhere like they were probably like 40 to 42, 43. And they took the retirement, and then the military was paying for them to go to school, and they're at James Madison University getting a master's in teaching. These guys are going to be social studies teachers. And one guy was great. Like, he was such a cool guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, you could, here and there you'd catch like, oh, right, military guy. But he immediately let his hair grow. Like, he had like graying brown hair down to his shoulders. And he was in cargo shorts and sandals all the time. And just couldn't have been cooler. And he was so excited. But if you think about it, like, that guy still has at least 20 years that he can work. He can be drawing 2 pensions later, and he has done 2 things that he liked. He was in the Air Force, he liked it, and he's going to go teach school, and he seemed, I don't know what he's doing, but he seemed like he was probably going to be good at it.
Yeah.
But maybe once you've done a thing for 20 years, the idea of starting new is different. You don't want to put in, when you're 22, 6 years is a big chunk of your life. I mean, it's over a quarter of your life, so I completely get that. I don't want to throw that away, you know, and you want to build on that. Do you think, whether it's military or law enforcement, like if you think long term, is that stuff you think you have interest in? Like when you're 50, would you still want to be doing that stuff?
If I'm not as beat up as my dad is, yes. My dad, I think I believe he's going on 53 this past February, and he's been in one major car accident, multiple surgeries on his bicep and his shoulder, tore his rotator cuff in a fight. The car accident, I believe he lost vision in his like right or left eye, major concussion and stuff. But like, if I'm as good as he is, then I mean, I got no problem with it. I mean, me right now at the age of 22, like, I mean, I've only been in for 3 years, but like carrying 45 to 60 pounds on your back is with a big backpack. It takes a toll on us because.
Yeah, I always think back, like, that was advice that my dad gave me, because my dad was, you know, he did military for, I don't know how long he was in. It was probably 4 years, maybe a little more than that. But he was 82nd Airborne, and he was airborne, basically, as soon as he could get into that, and then that till he was done. But that was, you know, with older parachutes, where, you know, there's some force. You know, he always said that the equivalent of dropping with one of the parachutes that they had is approximately equivalent to jumping out of like a second story, maybe third story window. He's like, you're coming down with force. He's like, new parachutes are so much better. He's like, people don't understand. And he's now had both knees replaced. Both knees fully replaced. He had them both scoped and all kinds of stuff when I was young. And now, you know, he had one done in his late 60s, and now he's in his early 70s, just had the other one done. But after that, he did some construction work. He had his own spouting business. So he's running up and down ladders. And then he worked most of, you know, basically around when I was born on, he worked for the Department of Defense, essentially at a warehouse, like at a military depot, shipping munitions and things. And so, again, still physical work. And so he always told me two things. Do something that you like, that you're good at. He said it's a terrible feeling to dread going to work every day when you know you have to go to work every day for the rest of your life. Like, don't do a thing you dread, which is good advice. And then the second piece was that even if you find the thing you love, if it takes a toll on your body, you have to be careful. And, you know, and since then, like, I landscape some in college. I have some friends who are contractors and construction work and stuff. And they all say the same thing. Like, it's great, but it may not be great when I'm 60. You know, like, the idea of, say, working until you're 65 before you get to retire is fine if you sit at a desk. But if you do, say, SWAT, say military, say, like, if you are a contractor, you may not feel as good about that when you're 63 as you did when you were 23 or even 33. So let's play that game then. Okay. Say you do law enforcement, whether it's, say, local or FBI, whatever else, and you do SWAT. What happens when SWAT guys get old? Do they keep doing SWAT? Like, is that your dad stuck with it? Or
so my dad
do you promote out of that?
My dad did SWAT. I want to say 05 to 07, and 07 is when he got in that serious car accident. He could still go for SWAT now, actually, and I mean, 53 is not old at all. But like, he could still go for SWAT with the amount of service and time he has with police. But with him, with the amount of service and time he has behind it, so you could be in SWAT, I think, for like a very, very long time. He would be, now that seemingly, he'd be like, I don't think he'd be entering the house, if that makes sense.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Like, he'd be in the truck, like,
on the radio.
Yeah. I think you can be in SWAT for as long as, like, you physically and mentally can handle it. I believe. I don't know.
I just think about that, like, you know, we never talk about this, and probably for a good reason. Like, it's kind of a morbid thought, but, like, bodies have expiration dates. Absolutely. And sometimes, you know, some of the things you can do expire before you do. So you're still, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of jobs, like, I don't know, most people don't actually know this. I don't know if you know this. Air traffic controllers. It's apparently like a very stressful job. Like,
I believe it.
A lot of anxiety, a lot of unfortunately, very high suicide rate in the job. You are not allowed to be an air traffic controller past, I believe it's the age of 45. Maybe it's 42, 45, something like that.
That's even late.
They essentially want people to start between like 18 and 22. And then they get 20 good years out of you and you're done. Because they worry about your memory, they worry about your eyesight, they worry about all these things. But that job they roll in, like there's a pension that goes with it and the rest. I'm not saying I've known plenty of police officers who are older, who are friendly, watching the community, doing great. I don't know how many guys at 65 want to be entering, you know, be clearing the room.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've learned, I've probably seen like the last year, he just picked up sergeant, I want to say a year ago. Yeah, he picked up sergeant about a year ago, which it's crazy how long it took him. And then I picked I picked up sergeant this past March, and I rub it in and like I made in 3, you did in 20, but it's way different. It's not the same, but I like to joke with him about that. Hey. But he just applied for first sergeant actually, but because of the years of service he has in, like it makes sense if he got it. Mm-hmm. But he did say though, like he's kind of winding down. It's like I said, he's had multiple surgeries, like concussions, car accidents, like
right.
I mean, he misses the fun, he misses the adrenaline, and I was like, I think I got that from him because like right now I'm enjoying that.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, he does say every now and then, he's like, I miss being on the streets, which is kind of hard for him. Like I said, with a torn, right now he can't do anything. He has a torn bicep. He's on light duty, but with the stuff behind it, like you said, like your body can only handle so much.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Like I think, now I'm at a point in my career as a teacher where here and there, like I think about another job, or I have a friend who a couple of years ago offered me a job and it was going to pay pretty well, but I'm like, man, I have a pension. I've got, and so I start thinking like long term about it. But there's nothing that stops you from being a teacher and you get old except you just start being mean to kids. There isn't like that physical aspect to it. And so when you're making decisions about how you're going to use your military service, say now, and whether that's to re-enlist in 3 or 4 years or to switch to law enforcement or the rest, how do you do that long? Like, can you even predict long term, or you just sort of plan 2 decisions out and figure out the rest later?
So the military, like if you didn't know what to do with yourself, so like when I was 18, 19, I know what was going on. Honestly, I would tell anyone go military. I wouldn't say Army. I would honestly say Air Force or Navy, because I literally hear they get taken care of the best. Like,
yeah, I hear a lot of people say Air Force.
Like go Air Force. Like I'm not gonna push my kid to do military at all. I hope my kid goes to college and gets a degree. But if they want to go, I'm like go Air Force. Take care of yourself, because like I've seen Air Force bases. I see their livings. Like they get treated good. Like, let's keep it real. Like they live in practically a hotel room. Like it is massive where they live for what it is.
I don't know. So I guess that, like how you just said, if you have a kid, you wouldn't push your kid in, military and the rest. Would you discourage it?
I wouldn't discourage it, no. If he wanted to go military, like I'm gonna support. I mean, that sounds cliche. Like I'm gonna support my kid no matter what. But like, if my kid didn't know what to do, I would probably throw it at him. But I wouldn't, because of what I know now. Because when I joined, like, the recruiter's supposed to sell you. They're like realtors. They're supposed to sell it. So I got sold, but he wasn't. I've seen worse recruiters. I'll put it that way. Like my recruiter wasn't like a total like just sign this and go. Like I would say he kept it somewhat real with me. But like if my kid wanted to join and he wanted or she wanted to do Army, with what I know now, I'd be like, all right, like no, like don't do that. Try and push for this, or retake your ASVAB. You can retake your ASVAB before joining. You just have to wait like 6 months. But that's where the patience starts to kick in, and I've learned that a lot better now as well. So.
Yeah,
I wouldn't discourage it. No.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I got. This is maybe 2 years ago. I want to say I have a friend from high school who's a pilot in the Air Force.
Nice.
Smart guy. He always knew like he wanted to do military, and he went to college out of high school.
Good for him.
And then after college, signed up in the Air Force, and he's a pilot. And I don't know the details of what he's doing now, but he always loved planes. Yeah, I mean, there was no doubt that's a thing he was at least going to think about doing after school. But a couple of years ago, I was doing, and I don't know if we did this when I did in class, but I used to do a short unit on like America at War kind of thing. Yeah. It's like a little documentary, you pick a book or, whatever. Part of it though, and part of the one documentary is they look at this kid who's looking at enlisting. And he's essentially doing it because he thinks it's his best option. He doesn't have a lot of options. Like, he doesn't have a lot of family and all this kind of stuff. And so I'd asked this guy, I said, because he's a very smart guy, very opinionated, and I always think like sometimes I'm like, I don't know how many of these opinions you are or aren't supposed to be sharing, given your role in your job. But his thing was not that you shouldn't enlist, but that if you're interested, you should take a veteran and a parent or a teacher who reads well with you, so that you read all the paperwork carefully and that you're very, very careful, because he said the only thing, regardless of what a recruiter ever tells you, the only thing they're obligated to is what's on the paper. And so if you don't know how to read the paperwork, or if you don't say bring a veteran with you, you may not know.
Yeah.
And then he got into sort of an ideological thing, saying that there's a lot that I'm doing that's good for America, that's good for people in other places. There's also a lot that I'm doing that has a lot to do with political or financial interests. And this is where you can tell he's a little disgruntled.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing very good things, but some of the things I'm doing I don't feel as good about because I don't know that I'm always serving. And so, and he wrote this whole thing out. I asked for give me 3 sentences of advice to pass along to kids. I got probably 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
And it was, in the end, it was very much sign up, do it if you want to, but you need to know what you're getting into ahead of time. And so it was really like kind of a wake up call that I shared with a few students. Thinking about, we said about your own kids, like, who do you think, well, one, do you have any advice in that situation? And I guess with that, who should be thinking about it? Be looking at military as a good option. Like, who do you think this job serves?
It's hard because, like I said, for the Army, like, there's so many jobs that are in the Army that, like, for example, if, like, my kid wanted to learn how to maybe cook 101, but, like, they didn't want to go to school and they think about military, like, I wouldn't say Army because I would do my research personally, and then hopefully he or she would as well. And of course, whenever they went to the recruiter, I'd go with them because the main thing when it comes to like signing the contract is making sure the job description is what you want it to be. Try and get a bonus. Don't let them play you. You play them. And then whether if you want to do just a minimum 3 years, sometimes there's a 2-year contract, which a few of my buddies got. I don't know how.
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 year contract, if that's what you want to start out with. That's kind of the main stuff you want to look for.
That's probably smart though, right? Like short contract first, because if you don't love it, you're out. You can always re-enlist.
Exactly.
You know, so a short contract would be good. To what extent, like when you enlisted, what were you signing up for?
So originally,
like in terms of job description or what you wanted to train in.
So originally, two of my really good friends, still now to this day, one's in the Marine Corps, one was supposed to ship out yesterday, but because of the hurricane, got denied and can't ship out to the end of this month. He's been trying for 3 years now, by the way, to get in. And so he's supposed to leave. That got nixed, and I was like, I don't think he's supposed to join, man. And he was mad. He didn't want to hear that, but So they wanted to join the Navy and be SEALs originally, and like one of their dads was an EOD for 20 plus years, so like, and his mom was a medic, so like off the bat, like military fan, like he's gonna join. Because I hung out with him so much, it kind of just started to rub off on me, and that's where like military kind of started coming in as well. So I hung out with them so much, and that's all they would talk about, was just like they both wanted to be
friends.
Navy. Exactly, yeah. And it kind of rubbed off on me. I mean, that may not sound like the right answer, but it is what it is.
Oh, yeah. It's probably a lot of people.
Yeah.
I got a lot of kids who want to be engineers because their friends say they want to be engineers.
They'll be engineers in the military.
They're like, I don't know, I don't like math. Why do you want to be an engineer? Well, my friends say, or my parents say it's a good job. I'm like,
it is a good job.
I don't want to be the guy I don't want to be the guy ruining your dream.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they rubbed off on me a lot, and like I wanted to join the Navy and attempt what they were doing, but like I can't swim. I mean, I can swim, but I can't swim what they would want me to swim.
Right.
And it's not like they don't build you up to that or anything. It's just like I just didn't have the desire to like be in the water 24/7.
Right.
And so then that's when I went to visit an Army recruiter, and then like I said, like I didn't know too much about the jobs or anything. Like I kind of just went head on, and my dad came in here and there, but I was originally supposed to be a Cav Scout. I don't even know what a Cav Scout is. It's like some like recon or something like that. I can't even describe it.
So like forward.
I think I don't even know. Like right. I really don't know much about him. And then he's like, well, what about infantry? And I just knew infantry was front line. That was it. That's all he told me. I was just like, all right, like, let's do it. Wouldn't take my eyes bad. And my career was like, yeah, you killed it. You did a great job. I like looked at my scores and like I looked back on it. I was like, you.
He's just saying whatever.
You're great at selling things, you know.
Oh right, because they work on commission, right?
Exactly. And so I was just like, you lied to me. Yeah, so when you get into basic, like, if you do good at PT, like, that's kind of all they really base you off of. If you do good at PT, like, you have a chance of, like, gaining schools. So, like, there were dudes that did good at PT that were just normal infantry contracts that could go to airborne school right after that. Okay. And so I got offered that, but, like, I didn't have the greatest PT score, so I couldn't get it. Right. And so that was kind of, like, my only way of trying to get to airborne school from that. And then next thing you know, like, hey, you're going to Fort Wainwright, Alaska. I was like, school. I mean, me personally, it's like I either wanted to be close to home or far away. I didn't want to be like Texas in the middle where it's like I'm close, but like I can't I can't get to you guys, you know. So I think, like I said, Alaska was. I wouldn't mind going to Germany.
That's where my dad was actually
I wish they
stationed.
sent me to Germany. I would have loved
my dad spent, and it's funny, you know, and I don't know the details of it. I'm sure he told me some of this when I was younger, and I probably forgot because I was little when I was asking. But my dad enlisted in the Army. I'd say out of high school. He dropped out of high school. Mm-hmm. So he probably enlisted when he was 17, 18. I think they still let you sign up early then.
If you get
and that was basically it. And I think he went to jump school pretty fast. And then they stationed him in Germany. And so he was in Berlin or around, you know, in West Berlin, West Germany. But as Vietnam War started to crank up, like he volunteered, you know, and he said that he volunteered several times. And they said essentially like, this is a strategic position. It's important to maintain the presence. And so they didn't take him. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about like how different his life would have been, or how like, you you make one little change, like I wouldn't be here. Even if he lives, he probably doesn't meet my mom, or, regardless of how combat plays out. But that was him. And, so he has all these great memories of Berlin and traveling, through Copenhagen and all these places, when he's on leave. I'm like, man, that sounds great. I
mean, they don't lie to you and say you travel the world. Like you really do travel the world. Like you got Italy, Germany. They're starting to send people. No one wants to go to Kuwait, but Kuwait. There's a rumor about starting to do something in Switzerland, Japan here and there, and then of course you got Texas, California, like just the U.S. or Hawaii.
Got some people in Korea, right?
Yeah, a little bit of people in Korea. They're rotating 9 months in, 9 months out, and then of course if you deploy Afghanistan, Iraq, or Africa, or you do what's called like you go on like a boat and you travel like these different islands over there in Europe. It's pretty neat. Yeah. I never went on it. Yeah, they don't lie when they say travel the world. It's just whenever your time is, that's when you travel. But if not, you're just doing the same thing for 3 years like I did and go on to the next thing.
Yeah, and I mean, that's probably not that different from a lot of other jobs if you think of it in terms of like an entry-level position. Yeah. But that's where, your goal now is you're boosting test scores, so you're looking into other options. You look for advancement, and so if you think about the rest of it as an entry-level position, that's okay. You want, and then you sort of move out of that. All right, so 2 questions left. Thinking about school, and a lot of the stuff you said about school that served you well was about study skills, organizational skills, sort of taking some responsibility and things like that. And some math and English, some math and reading.
Yep.
If you could change school, like if you were put in charge, you were principal of the school, or right now you got to walk in and say, we're going to do this thing different, or we're going to change big thing, little thing, whatever.
Okay.
What would you do? What do you think would make school better for, say, a student like you? Think about who you were when you were 17.
Okay. Are SOL still a thing?
They are. They're winding down a little bit. Kids take fewer tests now than you did.
So we'll go back to when I was in there, because SOLs are. I don't think a principal can do this, but me personally, if I can cancel SOLs, I'd cancel SOLs, because when we talked about this when I visited you last week, we were talking about SOLs, and it's just like, as soon as the teacher, like after winter break, you come back after New Year's, and the teacher's like, all right, we got to start getting ready for SOLs, and that just hits you.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to pass it, and if you don't pass it, you got to retake it, and then like it just keeps going on and on and on. So like, off the back, I would take away SOLs like immediately, because like, you already got, you guys still do exams, kind of.
So we don't have exams anymore.
It's no longer a thing.
There's no more midterm and final exams. So there's no midterm and final exams now. Now, other school systems still have them.
Yeah.
But fewer schools give midterm and final exams now than probably at any point 50 years. Maybe 60 years,
oh, my goodness.
And so, the kids don't take those big tests, which is actually a thing I worry about, not for everybody, but I worry about the kids who are going to go to college.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to study for a cumulative exam.
A bigger test. Yeah.
They've got the SOL, that's one thing, but they don't know how to actually study notes from the class for the whole semester.
Okay.
But so you would cut back on the testing.
I wouldn't say, not like, well, SOLs itself, like that, besides the tests that I took in school, like those are still like needed, especially as a teacher, because you got to see if what you're doing is proper, if kids are
right.
taking in what you're putting out. So like the test I completely understood, like even exams, like, I mean, yeah, I get it was a big test of, like, 9 weeks of, like, or 18 weeks of what you just learned,
Right.
but, like, those weren't even, I mean, I wasn't the greatest at tests, but, like, from me saying this, I was like, those weren't even that bad, personally,
Right.
exams. Like, SOLs, like, I think it was the aspect of just sitting behind a computer and you're just clicking.
So would it be fair to replace those with like some kind of project, like make a thing?
I'd rather do a project, absolutely.
Build a thing, make a thing,
be more
present
interactive.
something.
Yeah, be more interactive.
I think that's the direction it's heading. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But I do think that's hopefully the way it's going. I'd love to get rid of a lot of it. And I have one other question, and then the last one's sort of a free-for-all. So we already mentioned The Art of War, which you haven't read yet.
Not yet, no.
It's short,
Yeah.
and depending on the translation, it's usually not a very tough read. So it's one of those like power through, because I know for me it started slow, and I was like, oh wait, this is pretty cool, and I was like, I got to the end, I was like, I'm glad I read it. And like I said, I've read it twice, so I'm clearly glad I read it. I didn't love it, but I'm glad I read it. Is there a book or a movie that you think that either people should see because it gives perspective or whatever, or just for entertainment value? I always try to get a recommendation or two, book or movie or TV show, something that you think is of value in general and maybe value to kids in school, kids in college, something like that.
That's a good question, man. Jeez. Well, because I talked about this the other day, To Kill a Mockingbird.
All right,
Within the last year, I've seen, just at least around the U.S., that schools didn't want to present the book or show the movie anymore, and that's just because of the way the world is slowly going towards right now, just because like how crazy the world is. But I believe that's it's not huge history, but it's a good part of like a good baseline of
you don't want to lose it.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I mean, that's why in my classes I'm probably, I don't know if I'm the only teacher left in the county, and it's a big county.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the only one, but I'm one of very few who still assigns Huckleberry Finn.
I don't think I ever read that.
No, and I don't do it in academics. It's hard. It's really hard to read. So everything's written in dialect, so it's written in Southern accents and in like slave, like black Southern accents, and like there are parts where if you don't read it out loud, you just don't know what they're saying. Like on the paper, I don't know what I read out loud. I go, okay, get it. But it does a lot of important stuff culturally. And in my classes, we don't do as much fiction as I used to.
Yeah.
So, like, that's still the one. But, like, I think To Kill a Mockingbird fills a similar role.
It's a good baseline for the younger kids.
To know some value, to get a little history. It's a well-written book. So, okay. Is that the best book you read in school?
I can't even remember the books I've read in school. I remember I had to read, like, I hated Beethoven.
Beowulf?
Or is it Beowulf?
Beowulf.
I said Beethoven. Beowulf.
Yeah.
I hated Beowulf. I didn't follow.
That was my class. Was
it your class?
Yeah.
I didn't follow to save my life. I couldn't. I failed that
one. That one's tricky because that's one. It's like I don't love it.
No.
I think parts of it are cool.
Yeah.
But that was one that I only taught 10th grade for I think 2 years, and I've never been big on Brit Lit, or at least on the old stuff. And it's cool because it's like a big comic book.
Yeah.
But it's like a 1,500-year-old comic book.
It was hard. That was hard.
And I take no offense when you say that. That's when people, even when I say good things about Huckleberry Finn, people go, I hated it. And I'm like, did you read it and hate it? And if they say yes, I say, that's all I need.
All right.
You don't have to like it. There's a reason to read it. There's a perspective and awareness, and that's it. Beowulf, I am not a huge fan of.
No.
I mean, parts of I like, but it's better as a movie than a book.
Absolutely. No.
Yeah. Is there anything that actually, and I'm not that these are necessarily books flying off the shelves, is there anything that you were asked to read or suggested to read in the service? Like, is there anything that has been either recommended or required reading or suggestions or a movie, whatever, that you know that maybe guys you work with have benefited from?
I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but I've heard of dudes, they recommend me books. Or like, do you know that I was they just went to Iraq that I was talking about, and on the wall, there were books recommended to like read up on where they were going so they could learn more about it. I don't know the names.
Right, know some culture.
Yeah, there's stuff like that. So, I mean, that's kind of the most I saw for literature works, or like learn about the history of your unit. So like the 82nd, you think of World War II jumping in with the 101st and what's it called? Band of Brothers.
Right.
Like that's what I think of and stuff. So.
Nice. That's cool. All right. So if you think anything, send me a message after this.
I got you.
Then the last thing is essentially, I'm basically giving you an open platform. Is there anything you want to say, you wish people knew, you want to share, you want to yell about something for a minute or advice you want to give? This is your free-for-all moment, then we'll wrap up. But is there anything that you'd like to talk about or share that we didn't hit on or anything like that?
If I could look back, if I could go talk to myself or my class, so to speak, like the class of 2015, and I mean, some people probably already had instilled, but me personally, if I could talk back to myself and just say, like, in the long run, like certain things are going to matter, or like doing this will benefit you in the long run, then like that's what I would tell myself. So like when we talked about like I'll come back in the winter, I'll talk to your AP class or just whoever, and just let them know that like, hey, like what you're doing now, like it will matter. Because like for me personally, like I didn't realize till now the stuff I did back then really mattered. Mm-hmm. So like I wish I put more of an effort into high school at least, because like it could have matured me maybe a little better. Not saying that like I'm the worst, but like it could probably make me a better person than what I already am now.
Well, you're great, so you know, but there's some perspective maybe, and I think maybe that's some of the values. Like, and I say this all the time. I say, you know, you don't know what you're going to use until you're ready to use it.
Absolutely. And
so in sort of doing the Boy Scouts always be prepared thing, like you don't know what you're going to want to know later, so you should learn as much of it as you can now. Mm-hmm. That does not mean that school is fun or always useful. I'm just saying, like, if you're here anyway, you might as well get it, you know?
One other thing, too, when you get out of high school, it is okay to take a relaxed semester or take a semester off or take a year off.
Do the gap year?
Exactly, yes. Because one thing, I was talking to a few of my buddies, and they said that some of their friends were, like, freaking out about school and stuff, and they didn't know if they want to take a gap year, if they just didn't want to do this or do this. And I was just like, school will always be there. Like, if you need to take a year off or a semester off, whatever it may be, just to regroup yourself, like, all means go for it. Like, don't force yourself, because if you force yourself, then, like, you may not succeed. Like, take your time with it.
Right.
And when you're ready, and so on and so forth. Like, you don't have to rush life.
Yeah. Go with purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. Have motivation. Purpose, direction, motivation. That's the three things that they tell me as a leader.
What is purpose?
Purpose, direction, motivation. Yeah, that's what they tell us to provide to our guys. And there's like a bigger definition with it, but those are like the three main words, and that's what a good friend of mine told me to always remember. So purpose, direction, motivation. That's like the three things right there to always remember.
That's actually, it's a nice like simple test of things too. You know, if you think about like finishing high school, am I going to go to college, get a job, do whatever, and when you're not sure of any of it, if you can't answer those three questions, what's my purpose? What's my direction? What's my motivation? Like, if any part of that's unclear, you're right. Maybe that's the time to pump the brakes.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing wrong with.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon, I appreciate your time. That was a cool ending too. It was really good. I really appreciate it.